Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. How wonderful to be together on this beautiful day. Grateful for you and your presence here. We're here to nurture a deep and mature experience of the divine through the practice of unity principles. We like to say simply we're here to love and to grow and to serve and to just unfold in this divine presence that is God. So we're grateful for your presence here today. We're always developing this sense of spiritual community and what that means. And we're just delighted that you could join us. If you're visiting us for the first time, we just want to say welcome. We invite you to relax and enjoy yourself. If you did not receive a guest packet, we want to make sure you get one and join us for coffee after the service. We are also want to make you aware if you're in need of spiritual support. We do have a ministry of prayer that we'd love to the honor of praying with you. Those are located in the lobby, as well as you can submit requests online at unityofcharlotte.org. Excuse me. As always, there's lots going on. Starting in a new month, there's lots going on. So share a few things. Of course, our first Sunday is always our potluck Sunday, and so we invite you next week to join us, bring something to share, and hang out with us. Sandy's going to be offering Reiki 2 if you're interested next weekend. If you've already done the first thing, talk to her today. Also, we have Joseph Drollshanger will be back, who does a wonderful, who does a wonderful workshop called Ignite Your Passion, getting in touch with what's yours to do and how to bring that forward. That'll be here on Saturday, August 10th. And so we invite you to avail yourself of that. That's done on a conscious contribution basis. He says that, if you haven't figured out this manifestation thing, this is a good place to start figuring that out. Then we have in this fall, we're going to be doing connect groups again, but we're going to do a little different format. And this is going to be about the power of intention, the power of a group holding an intention for each other and for ourselves. So to lead that process, I will be doing a first 3-week training for anybody that thinks they would like to do that. That'll happen in August, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. And you have an option of doing a daytime thing or an evening thing with that. So we'd love to have you be part of that. It's a fairly simple process, but we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. Then you may be aware that in August we have our Arlene Moshe, thank you. I knew that didn't connect. Who is absolutely lovely and wonderful. And she's been here before and worked with us. For those that were fortunate to do the Hanukkah service with us, it was amazing. But they're having a retreat here. There's a discounted price that's available through the end of the month. Lisa will be hanging out outside there. We'll help you get enrolled in that. So just so many good things. And I'm really delighted that we're becoming a place where people want to come and share their energy and what they're doing in the world. So lots of great things. I think that's enough to keep us busy for a little bit. So let's move inward as we simply ground into this moment. And I invite you to take a deep breath, breathing in gratitude and releasing anything unlike it. Taking a deep breath to breathe in this divine presence, to remind ourselves that in truth we live, move, and have our very being in the divine. And so how wonderful it is to open our hearts to the presence of unconditional love and to open our minds to divine wisdom. To recognize and know that we are a center through which the divine realizes itself and unfolds through us. So I am grateful for this opportunity to be together in spiritual community, to be together to listen and hear the word of the divine as it is spoken, to be together to remember that which is true and authentic and real, our divine self. I'm grateful for the many hands and hearts that come together each Sunday to provide this service. And I'm grateful for the many that support this divine idea as it unfolds. And so let us just join in the knowing that life is good and all is well. Let us celebrate who we are. Let us celebrate the recognition of the divine expressing uniquely as each one of us gathered here. For all of these blessings and so many more, I'm simply giving thanks as we allow it to be so. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Please stand and join us, and then remain standing for the affirmation prayer. Up to a higher place. Up, far beyond this time and space. Up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. High, up to a higher place. Up, far beyond this time and space. Up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. No more forward, no more backward, no more spinning around and around. My life is moving ever upwards. My feet are hitting the ground. Up to a higher place. Up, far beyond this time and space. Up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. No more downward, no more darkness, no more wandering apart of it all. My life is destined, oh, for greatness. My soul has answered the call. Up to a higher place. Up, far beyond this time and space. Up to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. Higher place, higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place. I feel my soul rising to a higher place.
So today, for the last time, or at least for July, join me in speaking these words of truth. It wouldn't hurt if you said it like you meant it. Today, I celebrate my spiritual freedom. I gently release all limiting beliefs. I choose to express myself fully, freely, and powerfully. I know the joy of living my authentic life. Today, I celebrate my spiritual freedom. Thank you. So today's inspiration comes from, ready? The Bible. You know, we like to pretend like we're a real church every once in a while. So actually, I love this. This is from Matthew 13, the parable of the sower. And there's so much in this, but I'll speak to it a little bit. It says, the same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places, where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was so shallow. But when the sun came up, because the soil was shallow, it was scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. And still other seeds fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and asked, why do you speak to the people in parables? And he replied, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them. And repeat that. Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and in turn, I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because you see, and your ears because you hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but could not see it, and to hear what you hear, but could not hear it. When we speak of the kingdoms of consciousness, the kingdom of heaven, we're recognizing there's a spiritual dimension that we must pay attention to. When we rise together above the level and the din of the world, we hear that sweet, sweet voice, the gentle whisper of spirit calling us forward, calling us to be who we truly are. How grateful I am that we have eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to understand. And so it is. We have with us a young man who likes to bring forward his gifts of spirit and of love and of joy. We're grateful for Lawrence Tolliver.
I want to say a word about this song. This is a song that was actually created to commemorate the life of a gentleman, a black gentleman, who had risen to the status of a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And when I was asked to help celebrate his life, he had passed when he was in his 80s. And so I knew that the period of time when he rose to that rank was not an easy trip. There was no way for it to be an easy trip. And so I wanted to do a song that acknowledged that he had a steep hill to climb and at the same time was victorious. So he exercised his freedom to be all that he could be. And I was so proud, really, to have known him and to have really come to love the life that he shared with his community. And so the lyrics are taken from a poem that was written by one of the most famous poets ever to live in America. His name was Langston Hughes. And the name of the poem was Mother to Son. And the most famous line is the name that I have given to this song. My life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, life ain't been no crystal stair. There's been tacks, splinters, boards torn up, and places that were just plain bare. My life ain't been no crystal stair. I tell you, my life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, my life ain't been no crystal stair. There's been tacks, splinters, and boards torn up, and places that were just plain bare. My life ain't been no crystal stair. I've been climbing, reaching, turning, sometimes going in the dark. I've been climbing, reaching, turning, sometimes going in the dark. I've been climbing, reaching, turning, sometimes going in the dark. My life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, my life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, my life ain't been no crystal stair. There's been tacks, splinters, and boards torn up, and places that were just plain bare. My life ain't been no crystal stair. Tell you, climbing's kinda hard. Don't give up. Oh, climbing's kinda hard. Don't give up. Well, it don't matter what goes up, and it don't matter who falls down. Climbing's kinda hard. Don't give up. I tell ya, my life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, my life ain't been no crystal stair. There's been tacks, splinters, and boards torn up, and places that were just plain bare. My life ain't been no crystal stair. Oh, my life ain't been no crystal stair. No, life ain't been no crystal stair. There's been tacks, splinters, boards torn up, and places that were just plain bare. Oh, my life been you. Thank you.
Brother Lawrence bringing it home. Thanks, buddy. Beautiful. Thank you. So we have been celebrating freedom this month, as we are wont to do. And it brings us to my favorite topic, which is, what if we had the freedom to be ourselves? And I was thinking about this, how blessed I am as a gay man to have had the experience of coming out. And so for those of you who are not blessed, I want you to know it's not too late. And you don't have to be gay. Because symbolically, it's all about coming to a point in your life when you say, this is who I am, this is how I will live, and you can love me or not love me, but I will live my authentic life. So we'll have a little parade later and just march around and get crazy outfits on and just have a good time and celebrating who we are. Because I think what I'm profoundly aware of is that many of us go through life pretending or striving to be something that we're not. That we're trying to be or striving to be this version of ourself that we think we're supposed to be. And that comes out of our conditioning, it comes out of our growing up, and we had family dynamics and all kinds of societal pressures and all kinds of things that said, this is how good girls act. Or good boys act, or this is how, right? So we have these pressures, and because we originally when we arrive on the planet, we're pretty pure and open, and here I am. But as we gather those ideas, we accept some of them, and we think that is true for us. And then we try and live according to the thing, to the persona that we believe we should be living. Now, life will, if we step on the path, life will support us. And sometimes life supports us by busting the illusion, right? That something comes into our life experience that shatters the persona, shatters the construct, shatters the thing, and then we are left with, well, if that's not who I am, who am I? And that starts a deeper work. So when we're in this spiritual process, we are moving forward to identify, to re-identify, I might say, to re-identify with that which is holy and pure and true for us. And it causes us to re-examine our life, our beliefs, all of those sorts of things. I think I was recently just speaking to this idea that comes about two ways. One is sort of a divine discontent where we realize there's something more, and sometimes it comes through crisis, through that falling apart. I was chuckling with myself, which I do a lot, I'll just tell you. I and myself have a great time most of the time, Very funny conversations that go on with me. But I was thinking about how we've had some technical issues with our AV stuff, and so a piece broke, and Alan called me and said, we can't do this thing, and I said, maybe the universe is supporting us in doing something different. And then our sound has been weird, and we've been having radio stations picking up and all kinds of stuff, and so then I came in and realized that our speaker fell off the wall, and luckily no one was in the room, so we're grateful for that. You guys might want to be reconsidering where you're sitting, but Don't want to make you nervous, but, keep praying. I'm just saying, just keep praying over there. Right? So I was like, okay, well, maybe the universe is supporting us and doing something different. And I thought, how much does that look like our life? Where we're getting indications, we're getting whisperings, we're getting promptings, and we're like, I'm just going to power through this. And then something falls off the wall or falls apart, or you show up for dinner and your spousal unit says, honey, I need a divorce. And you're like, or whatever. We all have our stories. So, right? You go, okay. Maybe I should take a different approach. Right? I was sharing with somebody recently, part of one of my great lessons in life has been to learn to listen to the still small voice when it's still and small. Know what I'm saying here? You don't have to wait for it to get loud and mean, right? So that requires us to do some work. I've been listening. So I have a confession, another confession, as I haven't confessed enough already. So I've been listening to these Christian praise and worship songs that I found on YouTube, the source of all great knowledge. And they're so good. There's this one gentleman, and young guys, so there's this whole kind of approach to this kind of, it would feel very comfortable with us. It's a little directed towards Jesus, but there's this wonderful young musician named Will Reagan, and he has this song called I Am Listening. And it basically is just a repeat of this I am listening. I take the time to stop and unwind and listen to your sweet, sweet voice. I am listening. It just repeats this over and over. And so this has been part of my morning ritual of just being in that receptive place of listening to what God is calling for me to be. What is it that I'm prompted to do? And I love that idea of the sweet, sweet voice. I grew up with kind of a mean and vengeful God. And I was fortunate to trade that in, upgrade, I like to say, to a more kind and gentle and loving presence that it only wants our highest good, that only wants to seek its expression through us. And so I was reminded that these wonderful words of Walt Whitman where he says, I celebrate myself and I sing myself. I am larger, better than I thought. I did not know I held so much goodness. You see, when we start to push away those false beliefs or those ways that we have identified ourselves and really come into contact with the true essence of who we are, and we begin to kind of perceive ourselves as the divine perceives us, we might stand there and realize, I did not realize the goodness that is there. The masters throughout the ages have tried to teach us these lessons, I believe. Krishnamurti said, happiness does not come into being when you seek it. It is a byproduct. It comes into being when there is goodness, when there is love, when there is no ambition, when the mind is quietly seeking what is true. You see, there's a longing for the world that many of us have found ourselves in, that perhaps in the earlier part of our lives we were ambitious, trying to achieve those goals because somebody told us how we were supposed to be. Somebody told us who we should be, and then we got busy trying to be that so that we could be okay. Some of us came to a point at some point in our lives where we began to say, wow, is this really what I want? Is this really who I am? What is it that I'm seeking to express? Why am I here? What is mine to do? And in seeking the happiness outside of ourselves, we don't find it. But in seeking to find ourselves, we find happiness. It's a different way of thinking. And pretty much, I always like to say, pretty much all we do in unity is ask you to do everything opposite of what the world is telling you to do. Right? That's all. So go do that. Come back. Don't let me know how it went, right? That we don't seek the thing, we seek the thing within us. And then we pay attention to what is showing up in our lives. We pay attention to what is happening, who we are being attracted to. I was sharing, John Stringer was here yesterday. I had a wonderful workshop, great energy, and hadn't been here in a while. And so it was like, how's it going? It's like, it's fascinating. It's fascinating what's happening now. There's a different energy. There's a different thing. There's a different movement of community taking place because we keep listening to who are we called to be. And sometimes having to let go of what has been never makes what has been wrong. It's just sometimes, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes you keep trying to do what you've always done and you think that somehow you'll have a different result. And yet you keep getting the same result, and you go, well, maybe I should do it harder. Longer, faster, right? Maybe I should drink more coffee and try it, see what, right? Maybe I'll get really edgy and see if that doesn't work. Or we say, wow, that which has served me maybe is no longer necessary. Maybe something new is being called into being. So I was contemplating, and I'm going to give you some laws of consciousness today. And these are by no less of an authority than me. So you can take them for exactly what they're worth. But the first one I was thinking about is this idea of the law of redemption, I'm going to call it. And it speaks to me from the great prodigal son parable, where a child, and you know what? I'm an open guy. Insert a woman here. It's cool, right? In fact, maybe we will. So this young lady comes to her dad and says, I'm ready to take on life, and I don't really feel like waiting for you to die to get my inheritance. Could you just give it to me now? Because I'm ready to take on life. And because the universe always says yes, it says sure. And gives the inheritance. Oh, I mean the father. I meant to say the father because, you know. And the father says, sure. So this young lady takes her good and goes off to live a riotous life, a wild life. There is drinking and dancing and probably sleeping around. I'm just going to say it, right? All kinds of wonderful fun. And it's great. So much fun to be young and have no responsibilities. And then all of a sudden she wakes up one morning and she's a little hungover and she realizes there's no money. Oh my God, I might have to go to work. It turns out there's not a lot of jobs available, but there is a job available for pig cleaners, pigsty cleaners. So she takes it. Now just realize that it's one thing to have to clean up pig stalls. It's another to be Jewish and have to clean up pig stalls. Right? So just get the symbology. This is not a good situation. This is not life longing for itself to fulfill itself through you. But she has a realization. She comes to herself. And she says, in my Father's house, even the servants live better than this. I will go home to my Father, to that house, and I will prostrate myself and beg for forgiveness. And so she's making her way home. And as she's making her way home, her father sees her and says, let us celebrate. Let us kill the calf. Let us have a feast. Bring the best robe. Bring the golden ring. For my daughter who was lost has now returned. Now the older sister, not happy at all. She's like, I was the good girl. And this is the way you treat. But the great message, that's a whole nother sermon. I'm not going to go there today. But you figure out who you are and you see where this story has meaning for you. But the idea that when we come back to the divine, it doesn't punish us. It celebrates us. And sometimes we have to leave. We have to go out of that comfort. We have to go out of that which is known. We have to go out of our normal circumstance to figure out who we are. I often say there's really only two ways we ever learn, and one of them is doing it by doing it right. Who can guess what the other is? Right? So often we make mistakes. If we are wise, we say, cool, I found yet another way that doesn't work. I will try something different. I will embrace a different way of being. So in that story, we realize that there's no harm. There's actually great good in leaving, going on the journey, coming to ourselves. 12-step traditions always talk about hitting bottom. Now, bottom is not a predetermined place. It's not a fixed thing. It's whatever it is for the individual who says, well, this clearly isn't working. Maybe I need to surrender and try something greater. So the law of redemption is a wonderful thing to keep in mind, that we can always return home. The second is the law of consciousness, and is why I wanted to read from Matthew 13. The laws of consciousness. You see, we believe that we are working in a creative field, a creative energy. We might call it universal mind. And that we are co-creative with the divine intelligence that creates all things. So it turns out that the universe creates through us according to our belief. Jesus said to those who asked him for prayer, he'd say, do you believe I can do this? They said, yes. And he said, then let it, according to your faith, let it be established. According to your faith. You see, sometimes we want to look to that great spiritual being to fix our life. But great spiritual beings are really saying, you already got this. You already are that divine presence. But we must be aware of our consciousness. And so when we begin to understand that we are working in a creative field, a creative energy, a divine intelligence, then we realize this sense of the seeds that we plant matter. And it says the farmer goes out to sow and he's spilling seed, and some of the seed falls in rocky places or falls on ground, and the birds come and swoop down and pick it up. Because that's what birds do. Those are the thoughts. We say, I'm going to do an affirmation this morning. I am happy, healthy, and wonderful. And we go out the door, and somebody has scratched our car, and all of a sudden that whole program goes into a whole different program. Who would, blah, 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 blah. So some of those seeds get swooped up by conditions. Some of them fall into shallow soil and spring up, but once the sun comes, they wilt away because they did not have the root to hold them. Sometimes you see people will start working with these principles, and all of a sudden they demonstrate something. They're like, cool, I'm done. Thanks for all you taught me, Reverend Marty. I'm on my own now. I was like, to myself, because I'm very kind and gracious. I'll see you in 3 months. Because it comes up, but they don't have the roots to sustain their greater good. Some places fall on rocky, or fall among the weeds, and the weeds take over. You see, part of our mental conditioning is always weeding, always removing those thoughts that no longer serve us. There's been times in my life where I've liked to garden a little bit. I've never been a really avid person. And one of the things that I discovered in those moments when I did is that when you wait 3 months to do any of the weeding, it's a big job. Next year we'll start over, right? But when you pick the weeds as they're popping up, so I have to have that conversation with myself. Often it's like, do you really want to dwell here? Do you really want to dwell in resentment? You really want to dwell in whatever's going on in my mind, or just be aware of the weed and go, it's okay to have the feeling. Just don't, as somebody says, it's okay to go through the valley of death. Just don't camp there. Just go through, right? But some seeds fall in fertile ground. And when they do, they produce 160, 30 times what was planted. That's the law of consciousness. Isn't it wonderful that we can plant a seed and get so much more than what we planted? So too in our lives, when we continue to do the spiritual work and we realize that there may seem like there's periods where nothing is happening, but as somebody reminded me, the last thing to come forward on the tree is the fruit. Right? So it's not working. But when it comes together, when we have created this spiritual soil that allows something magnificent to happen, then it's bigger and better and more magnificent than even we imagined when we started planting. So I say, let us stay with it. The last law is the law of Dharma. And in the Eastern tradition, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a conversation that happens between the Aruja, who is the greatest warrior, and through Krishna, who is disguised as a charioteer. And so this ongoing conversation, if you've ever read the Bhagavad Gita, my friend actually just did a new version, which I can't wait to read. But it's this conversation about how to live fully in the world, because the idea is that this is where you learn. Not by being in an ashram, not by being in a cave somewhere, but it's in this world that the real practice happens. And so it talks about Dharma is that there is a certain kind of action that leads to freedom and fulfillment. Krishna says a certain kind of action that is always aligned with our true self. That is aligned with our true self. So sometimes that means doing something different, perhaps professionally. I've met so many interesting people that have kind of reached a level of success with their career and went, you know, there's something else calling to me to do that. And it takes courage to walk away from that. It takes courage to listen to what we're being called to do. It may be in our personal lives. It may be in all different ways. But God implanted that seed within us and said, be that. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'd rather be something else. So that path, the struggle comes in not listening, not paying attention, not honoring who we are. But when we begin to honor who we are and we listen to that, we begin to look to the Dharma, look to our Dharma, which is to really just say to trust your spiritual gift. You see, God gave us the gift to be given. I do some amazing things really, really well. I do a lot of things not well at all. So for me, I'm always reminding myself, do what you do well. And I'm blessed to be in a spiritual community that has a ton of different kinds of gifts. So I just go around and find out who's got a gift that I don't and say, do this. And they do, and it's wonderful, and it's so much bigger than what any of us can do. So give your gift, live your spiritual purpose. Secondly, do it all out. Go for it. Commit. Be that. Lastly, or third, let go of the fruits, which is to say, stop paying attention to if it's demonstrated yet. And do what you are called to do. As I just said, the fruits are the last thing that show up. But you don't get there unless you follow the path. You do what you're being called to do. And then he suggests turn it over to God. Turn it over to the divine. Turn it over to an intelligence that is greater than you, that is not only implanting within you the desire, which means of the Father, by the way, the desire, but also the gift, all that is necessary. I remind myself often that my best thinking got me here. Sometimes that's a good news statement, sometimes it's not. And so if my best thinking is what got me here, Einstein says we can't solve problems at the level that created the problem. that we have to elevate. We have to think differently. We have to get a new perspective. We have to listen to that sweet, sweet voice and act upon that. The freedom to be who you are. Understand, each of us is unique. Once in an eternity expression of the divine. I mean, all that. But everybody else is as well. And so the divine, I like to say, God is having a unique experience through each one of us. That desire, that longing is given if we get beyond the ego and start listening to what Spirit's calling us to do. And we act on that. That is when we begin to find joy. That is when we become fulfillment. And it's even entirely possible that we may make a ton of money doing it. But we shouldn't let the end be the goal, but rather the path of fulfillment, that following of Dharma. So I invite you, as we're moving forward, that you have your coming out party, large or small, where you just have this agreement with the divine to say, this is who I am, this is who you created me to be, and I will do this fully, freely, completely. Let the journey begin. Let us pray. As we just breathe into that awareness and that sense that we're feeling in this room, as we take a deep breath of gratitude, grateful for this life's journey, whether it took us to the pigsty or whether it took us to the mountaintop, it's all part of the divine unfolding through us, and we pay attention, we listen. We remind ourselves that the same intelligence that has caused all things to be, that's caused this universe to be an expression, causes the planets to remain in motion, the rains to fall, the flowers to grow, all of life to be life, is our very life right here and now. And so we surrender to that divine self, to that authentic self. We say yes to life, knowing that it is always saying yes to us. We claim our divine inheritance right now, that divine inheritance of wholeness, allowing that to express as health, well-being, as vitality. We allow ourselves to experience abundance, for we know that this is an inner spiritual state of being. So we joyously give and graciously receive of this divine bounty that is always available to us. We know that there is only love. And so we choose love over every other option. We forgive ourselves. We forgive those who we perceive to have harmed us. For we know that we are walking on the path of divinity. We are allowing something magnificent to happen through us and as us right here and right now. How grateful I am to speak this word of truth. And I just invite you that if there's a burden on your heart this morning, now could be the time to lay it down. To come to the altar of wholeness, of healing, of love, of joy. To allow ourselves to be born anew. To celebrate who we are. In joy and in gratitude, I know this is so. We bless this truth. We bless each person here. We bless this spiritual community. We bless our brothers and sisters around the planet. We bless the planet itself with all of her creation. We hold a high intention for a planet at peace and a world that works for all. And we bless all teachers of all faiths. For there is but one power, one God, one life. In joy and gratitude, then, I'm just simply giving thanks. And through the power of the living Christ, I speak this word knowing that it goes forth to bless, to heal, to prosper. I am grateful. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and I'll go home to my Lord to be free. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. Well, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord and be free. No more mourning, no more mourning, no more mourning over me. And before I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord and be free. There'll be singing, singing, there'll be singing over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord and be free. There'll be shouting, there'll be shouting, there'll be shouting over me. Well, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. Oh, before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord and be free. And go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, and go home to my Lord and be free.
Yes, 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 yes. So I invite you to stand and join us for our prayer of protection, to sing the peace sign, join us for coffee and cookies, give Bill a big hug, and just go forth with the magnificent light of who you are. Be willing to trust the Spirit is guiding and directing your life. Together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every step I take, God is here.